BBC News at 4 o'clock.
Hello. February the 5th, 1924, exactly 100 years ago yesterday, the Pips were first broadcast, the familiar time signal from Radio 4 and some other BBC radio stations, the 5 short Pips followed by the one slightly longer one, and the exact beginning of the next hour comes at the very beginning of the 6th Pip, so that you can know exactly what time it is. At least that's not quite true if you're using digital radio or satellite radio. If it's satellite radio, then you're going to have a 0.25 second delay, whereas if you're using digital radio, the delay can be anything from 2 seconds to 8 seconds. And immediately, as we move into a modern world with all these new ways of communication, we find that the old familiarity, stability and certainty of those pips telling us the exact time disappears. Perhaps a symbol of the changing world, the more confusing and uncertain world that we seem to be moving into. But it is comforting to know exactly what the time is. I remember many years ago, long before mobile phones, realising how often I looked at my watch and deciding to try and live without a watch for a while. And of course it didn't really work, because I had to look at the clocks in the room or in wherever I was in order to find out when to be at my next appointment. But this idea of not wanting to be hidebound by time, I think not wanting to be held in by it, is partly because I wanted to live in the present moment. I wanted to make sure that this was the moment that mattered, and that I wasn't always thinking about the clock and what was going to happen next, and whether I would be late and so on, but just to go with the flow. It was rather an idealistic attitude from a very much younger man than I am now. But I think that this desire to not let time control us and to have a little freedom, a little flexibility, not to be too hidebound by our diaries and our calendars, can be something we still feel. But actually, there are much more significant ways in which we are governed by time. Our bodies, of course, have their own biological clocks. Every tissue, every organ in our body has its own circadian rhythm, which is influenced by the amount of light there is around us, by the amount of stress we're feeling, by things that happen to us, by when and what we eat, and of course all these individual biological clocks in the different parts of our body are all governed by the main biological clock which exists in our brain. And this will determine, for example, because light begins to become fainter in the evening, the clock tells us that it's going to be time for bed, and so our body increases the amount of melatonin in our body, and that makes us sleepy. So that sometimes we're sleepy and ready for bed, even though we're not maybe actually tired. And similarly with all sorts of other functions like feeling hungry, which happen to us almost without us knowing why, but it's because of the mechanisms, the clock that our own body has installed within it. And so today I'm going to be much happier, perhaps, than I was all those years ago, to allow myself to be governed partly by the external clocks, which are important in keeping to some kind of time, gives us a sense of routine, a sense of stability, but also to celebrate the way in which my body knows what time it is and what I need to do at this particular time of day, and to be willing to let my body tell me that now is the time to eat, or now is the time to sleep, and go with it quite happily.